The first cold evening of autumn, I carried a folding chessboard to the park, expecting to stay through the final game. Halfway across the square, my fingers felt stiff and cold enough that I tucked one hand beneath my arm. I set down the clove-scented thermos I had brought and wondered whether its warmth meant anything beyond comfort. My friend Harold slid the board toward me and said, "You came to play, not to inspect your hands." He was right, but I left after one game. The pleasant evening had been interrupted by a private calculation. Was this weather, normal variation, a circulation problem, or fear making every sensation louder? At 83, I still oil the hinges on my garden gate, carry library books under one arm, and walk back for the umbrella I always forget. Circulation matters to ordinary participation long before it becomes a dramatic bedroom promise. For several evenings, I used the warmth of that mug as a home circulation test. Warm fingers felt like success, cold fingers felt like failure. But the cup changed skin temperature, weather changed the comparison, and anxiety changed what I noticed. I was measuring a sensation without knowing what had produced it. The useful question was not whether a warm spice could give me a dramatic sign on command. It was how three ordinary uses might fit a circulation-conscious routine, what part of the benefit would be direct or indirect, and which symptoms required real evaluation. Once I separated comfort, biological plausibility, and clinical proof, the title became answerable. For 3 years, I slept 3 feet away from my wife, and it felt like 300 miles. She'd fall asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, feeling like a roommate in my own marriage. I thought something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year, while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. Use cloves 3 modest ways before bed. Steep a few whole buds in a mild, unsweetened infusion. Add a small culinary pinch of ground clove to an earlier whole food snack, or use clove aroma to replace a sugary or alcoholic nightcap. These methods provide modest culinary exposure to compounds with genuine experimental vascular activity while supporting a circulation-conscious evening routine. Human trials have not yet shown that bedtime cloves directly improve penile blood flow or erections. What changed was the architecture around the spice, not a proven burst of vasodilation from the spice. Each method received a specific vehicle, time, and job, while movement, sleep, risk factor care, and evaluation carried the larger circulation work. The first method is the mild infusion. Whole buds in warm water release aroma and some water-compatible compounds. The drink should taste pleasantly spiced, not numb the mouth or burn the stomach. I finish it earlier in the evening rather than immediately before lying down, especially if nighttime urination is already stealing sleep. What is positive about this method? It can be unsweetened, calming as a cue, and simple enough to repeat. If it replaces soda, a sugary tea, or another late caloric drink, the substitution may support a better dietary pattern. The clove does not need to act like a medicine for the ritual to be useful. What is not established? We do not have a controlled human trial of a homemade whole clove infusion measuring circulation, endothelial function, erection quality, or sleep. Steam and temporary warmth can change comfort, but they are not proof that an artery widened. The second method is a small culinary pinch of ground clove in food. I might add it to a modest bowl of plain oatmeal, unsweetened soy yogurt, or fruit earlier in the evening. The useful structure is spice plus a whole food, not spice plus a dessert pretending to be health food. Ground clove exposes more surface area than a whole bud, which changes flavor intensity. That is a reason to use less, not a reason to expect a stronger vascular result. A small pinch can make an unsweetened food satisfying. Several spoonfuls can turn an ordinary snack into an unmeasured, concentrated exposure. The third method is the flavor swap, and its circulation support is indirect. My clearest vehicle is a small cup of caffeine-free rooibos, or plain warm water scented with 1 or 2 whole cloves. I use it after the kitchen closes, but early enough that fluid does not worsen nocturia. Its job is not to force a vessel open. Its job is to replace the sweet cocktail, sugary tea, or alcohol-centered nightcap that had become automatic. Alcohol can disrupt sleep and affect sexual performance, and added sugar can work against metabolic goals when it becomes a nightly excess. Replacing either one does not prove that clove dilates blood vessels. It means the new routine removes a recurring obstacle. That is indirect support, but indirect support can still be worthwhile. The 3 methods are alternatives, not a nightly checklist. On an evening when dinner already included ground clove, I do not need an infusion and a scented replacement drink as well. On a night when reflux, mouth sensitivity, or bladder timing makes the beverage inconvenient, I can skip it without believing I abandoned my circulation. A useful method should fit the evening. The evening should not be reorganized to serve the spice. Now let us deal with the study that makes clove claims spread so quickly. A small open-label pilot gave a standardized water-soluble polyphenol-rich clove extract to 13 healthy or pre-diabetic volunteers for 30 days. Fasting and post-meal glucose measurements moved favorably during the study. That result deserves accurate language. It was a standardized extract, not a cup with whole buds. There was no placebo group. 13 people is a very small sample. The investigators did not measure blood vessel diameter, walking capacity, erectile function, or nighttime circulation. Metabolic findings may be relevant to long-term cardiovascular questions, but they are not direct proof of a circulation effect. The supplied research on cloves makes the same broader point. Laboratory and animal evidence is far larger than human clinical evidence. But the experimental findings are worth understanding because they explain why researchers remain interested. In one primary study, eugenol relaxed isolated mesenteric arteries from rats. The work pointed to endothelial TRPV4 channels and related signaling, and intravenous eugenol lowered mean arterial pressure in anesthetized rats. That is legitimate vasorelaxation evidence. It is also preclinical evidence using rat tissue and a route that a culinary bedtime routine does not reproduce. An even more relevant study tested clove essential oil and eugenol against erectile physiology in diabetic rats. Both relaxed isolated corpus cavernosum tissue. When placed directly into the corpus cavernosum, they improved erectile responses in the animals. That is a real bridge between clove compounds, smooth muscle relaxation, and erectile tissue. The mechanism was not the generic story many videos would tell. Blocking nitric oxide synthase or soluble guanylyl cyclase did not remove the relaxation. Potassium channels appeared to contribute in that rat model. So it would be inaccurate to simplify the finding into cloves raise nitric oxide. The vascular signal is not confined to rat tissue. Eugenol also relaxed isolated human umbilical vein tissue in a laboratory study, with potassium and calcium channel mechanisms implicated. In another experiment, low micromolar eugenol inhibited activation and aggregation in isolated human platelets. Those findings show biological activity in human material, though neither study shows that an older man drinking clove water gets the same effect or that culinary cloves work as a clinical blood thinner. Now the decisive boundary. Scientists injected clove oil or eugenol directly into rat erectile tissue and also studied tissue outside the body. They did not give older man a cup of clove water, a pinch of ground spice, or dry buds to chew. It did not show that oral eugenol reaches human erectile tissue at an effective concentration. Interesting in a laboratory and shown to improve blood flow in older men remain different statements. Concentration also changes safety. Clove essential oil is not a stronger version of clove water. It is a concentrated exposure. The NIDDK liver tox monograph describes serious liver and kidney injury after large eugenol or clove oil ingestions. That is why none of my 3 methods includes swallowing essential oil. Regular culinary use may also deserve extra caution when a man takes anticoagulants, blood pressure medicine, diabetes medicine, or has liver or kidney disease, an allergy, or planned surgery. A pharmacist or clinician can consider the actual medicine list. I cannot do that from a video, and I would never tell a man to stop prescribed care for a spice routine. Now picture circulation as a house wired through a dimmer system. Blood vessel lining, nitric oxide signaling, smooth muscle, blood pressure, glucose, lipids, nerves, hormones, sleep, movement, and medicines all influence the light. Clove is not a master switch that you turn to maximum. The metaphor has a limit. The body is more adaptive and complex than household wiring. The American Heart Association's Life's Essential 8 gives us the more useful map. Diet quality, activity, nicotine exposure, sleep, weight, blood lipids, blood glucose, and blood pressure. Notice what is absent: a single bedtime spice. Clove can occupy a small but scientifically interesting place on that map. Its principal compound has repeatedly interacted with vascular signaling in experimental research, while the culinary ritual can make a better choice easier to repeat. It cannot replace the map. Here's the stack I put around the 3 methods. First is a short walk after dinner when my balance, weather, and clinician's advice make it safe. Movement has a direct place in cardiovascular health. If walking is not safe, a qualified professional can help adapt activity. Second is sleep protection. I finish fluids earlier, reduce bright light, and keep a regular schedule. Poor sleep can work against energy, blood pressure control, glucose regulation, and sexual confidence. A warm aroma may cue the routine, but it cannot compensate for untreated sleep apnea or chronic insomnia. Third is knowing the numbers that matter. Blood pressure, glucose, or A1C when indicated, and lipids tell me far more about cardiovascular risk than whether my tongue tingles. I discuss those numbers with a clinician rather than inventing a target from a social media comment. Fourth is treating persistent erection changes as information. The Princeton 4 consensus connects erectile dysfunction and cardiovascular risk assessment. That does not mean every erection problem predicts a heart event, and it does not mean fear is useful. It means a new or persistent change deserves an honest medical conversation, especially with chest symptoms, shortness of breath, fainting, or known risk factors. I also separate hand or foot sensations from a diagnosis. Cold feet can have many explanations: numbness, color change, pain with walking, swelling, or a wound that does not heal should be evaluated. I do not use a warmer drink as proof that the underlying cause is fixed. Last month I stood at a community workbench and helped tighten loose screws on donated chairs for nearly an hour. I stayed present, paced myself, and left with enough energy to cook dinner. That sense of participation came from a broad routine and appropriate care, not from giving one spice all the credit. Consider Morris, a fictional composite who repaired radios for 40 years. He is proud of diagnosing a circuit by sound, so he approaches his colder feet and less reliable erections the same way. Every night he changes something different: a late whiskey, a sweet herbal drink, an evening snack, the room temperature, then credits whichever sensation he notices by morning. After 2 weeks, Morris has plenty of impressions and no usable pattern. His problem is not excess spice. It is a noisy experiment in which weather, alcohol, sleep, meals, worry, and symptoms keep changing together. He cannot tell whether the clove aroma helped, whether the whiskey hurt, or whether his feet simply felt different because the floor was colder. He makes a small card with 3 columns: vehicle, time, and job. A mild whole bud infusion can replace sweet tea early in the evening. A culinary pinch can season oatmeal or fruit when a real snack is needed. Clove aroma in rooibos can replace the ritual of whiskey. He chooses one method, not because stacking is forbidden by magic, but because one clear choice is easier to evaluate. Morris also resumes his afternoon walks, records his actual blood pressure readings, protects his sleep schedule, and discusses the persistent erection change and colder feet with a clinician. The spice remains in his kitchen, but sensation is no longer pretending to be a diagnosis. That is the identity shift I recognize. Morris returns to the chess table and the repair bench as a participant, not a man conducting a medical verdict on himself every hour. He can enjoy a supportive ritual while judging progress by function, appropriate measurements, and qualified evaluation. The complete approach is simple. Choose one culinary method at a time. Keep it mild and unsweetened. Finish liquids earlier if nocturia is an issue. Do not ingest essential oil. Let the method replace a worse default. Then support circulation with movement, sleep, tobacco avoidance, blood pressure and metabolic care, and proper evaluation. If the clove aroma helps you close the kitchen, skip alcohol, or enjoy an unsweetened food, that is a positive result worth keeping. The experimental vascular signal gives an additional reason for cautious interest, even though a measurable overnight effect from culinary use has not been established. Hope works better when every part of the stack has a job it can actually perform. At 83, I want my rituals to return me to the evening I meant to live, not turn the evening into constant body surveillance. That is how a small spice can help. It can support participation, better defaults, and a coherent routine without pretending to be the whole answer. Your erections don't disappear just because you got older. They fade when the systems behind them, blood flow, nitric oxide, hormones, energy, and recovery, slowly stop getting the support they need. Ignore that long enough, and it becomes harder to reverse. That's why I take this concentrated formula every morning. Not one ingredient trying to fix everything, but several working together to support circulation, energy, and drive from the inside out. It's a natural, doctor-backed protocol designed to support pathways your body already knows how to use. No prescription, nothing artificial. Stronger, present, confident again. And unlike the pills I tried, I didn't feel disconnected from my own body. No headaches, just steady, gradual change. My wife noticed before I even said a word. The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you. Tell me in the comments which of the three methods has the clearest vehicle, time, and job in your own evening. Subscribe for more grounded conversations about circulation, confidence, and men's health after 6.